I mean, things in a way are pretty bad. So no matter what you do, you just can't disguise that stuff sometimes. Over the limit. There was some of those matches, not over the limit, but Capital Punishment. Some of those matches, they're putting guys on there like, I don't know. I like Evan Bourne. I've grown to like that guy. He's okay, but Ezekiel Jackson, come on. I mean, I know you're a fan. I know you're down with him. It's probably I'm down with Heath Slater, so it's a fair argument. But people that were putting out there that night, I was like, this is a pay-per-view. If I paid for this, if I had paid for that shit, I wouldn't be happy.
You're echoing my thoughts there, and we actually haven't spoken about this pay-per-view at any length at all. We haven't mentioned it really much in
I can't
any
even
way.
remember what matches were on it.
Well,
Actually.
everything you're saying there is exactly what I have been thinking, because the actual people that were on the card were the very first thing that you could just sit there and look at those matches one by one. It's not so much that they were bad guys, but I mentioned to you just there that this truly is the post-Undertaker, post-Shawn Michaels era that everybody asked, well, what is going to happen when that actually is finally the case, that we don't have these legends there.
We're smack bang in it now.
We're there,
Yeah.
and people like Edge have gone. That kind of guy who would have been considered to be one of those top stars that at least relates to that late 90s period. So those older viewers who maybe did go away, they could relate to him if they saw him on Mania. Look, Edge is on this, or Michaels, or Undertaker. But we're now left, as you say, with really the time is now for all of these guys, but it's going to take a while to cement them for me.
It will certainly take time. Some of them are doing a great job. I think for them to lose Punk now would probably be not the greatest of timing for everybody. I think the only one for me that's keeping things entertaining, and I was glad he did both Raw and SmackDown, is Booker. The commentary is incredibly funny. Incredibly funny. So for me, I think Booker and Evan Bourne, that's about it.
Booker and Evan Bourne, not a bad choice. These are people who did stand out. They're at least unique and different, because we haven't had a guy like Booker on commentary for a while. I mentioned before, he almost has that superstar Billy Graham tone. I didn't know the name at the time. I had to be reminded, but yeah, it reminds me of that tapes I've seen of that guy on commentary, and it is that kind of deeper voice, much needed, I think, in a commentary team that all are very, I wouldn't say maybe nasal, but they have that kind of standard sports announcer feel, whereas he's the other side of that. He's the deeper kind of side. But Booker was a positive moment in this, and as I say, something unique. Of course, you had Dolph versus Kofi, now on a pay-per-view.
Part 46.
Part 46, 47. It's been rerun on Raw since they both went over there, and of course it was SmackDown for the last 4 months as well.
They have good matches though. Yeah. They do have good matches, so
Long matches.
yeah. Well, that one, Power to the People, was certainly a long one. But yeah, I mean they do what they do. I'm kind of happy that Ziggler got that US Championship. I think that's a good step for him. And you don't really need a belt on Kofi. He's got the kind of kids. He's like a Mysterio. Just throw him in there with his coloured shorts and he's fine. So for Ziggler to have that US belt with Vicky and the blonde hair back, he'll be on the path to stardom. Maybe he can fill the void. Him and Evan Bourne, possibly.
I will say that actually I am bored of the pairing, but the match itself, it wasn't that bad. Lots of false finishes, counters, and it had that kind of we're in it for the long haul feel from the very beginning. So it's not like you kind of were bored and going, well, I expect this to end early. And they are put in a strong position as well to kind of open up and do all that. But I will say this, the actual directing of this thing, I don't know what changed, but there was all sorts of crazy shots in here, camera-wise, that I hadn't seen attempted before. Kind of different shots of Vicky Guerrero, and they had that kind of around the ring from the top shot. Things like that stood out, but immediately I noticed that. And as I say, 3.5 out of 5 is what I kind of put that at. An average match, but I just don't like to see this one played out. For me, it was done before it got to the pay-per-view, and maybe that kind of maybe ruined it for me.
I think it must be some sort of either one. Look, these guys can have good matches. We're doing another interbranded 3-hour spectacular. Let them go at it again. They're just, or maybe they request him. I say, look, give me Dolph. We'll do that deal again tonight or whatever. It's got to be something like that, or maybe it's some sort of inside rib where they go Dolph, Kofi. Yeah, fuck it. It's got to be one of those three. But I got sick of it when it was on SmackDown for quite some time. Now I don't even. It doesn't even register anymore.
I heard this week that the creative team were actually feeling a little bit tired. They felt like they were running out of stuff because, as I say,
happens, yeah.
2 6 hours in terms of Raw, a 6 hour block if you like, and then of course the 3 hour pay-per-view, SmackDown on top of it, NXT. They still got to find the odd thing for superstars as well.
That's true, yeah.
And maybe they're not that complex in terms of the angles they have on superstars, but they are definitely now, I think, maybe overused at this point. I mean, it's all story actually. There is story for a lot of stuff.
No, it's been good for here and there and bits. Yeah.
What I did notice as well, and I think it goes on to that point, is that there was so much filling in that show. There was a point where it was about to start with the next match, and they had enough time to show the graphic and then hang around talking for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it was like that for Raw too.
You could tell it was very, very slow paced. Even the entrances, and when people were talking in the ring, they would take their time to do so. I suppose that's what happens. I think it's more the USA Network pushing them, isn't it? Saying, look, you get the viewers. We need another hour from you or whatever. Just deliver it.
Yeah,
they don't really need that extra pressure.
They certainly can make demands, and of course that is the whole other side of it that we're not privy to. We don't know.
How about this situation with? They're talking about starting Raw earlier now, doing like a kind of a pre-Raw in the arena, like the boxing matches. What do you think of that?
I actually think it's a good idea. Would it be on USA?
Yeah, they're starting it on an earlier time block. I don't know if it's half an hour or an hour, but it's pretty much a dead set thing that they're going to try to do.
I think it's a good idea because even, here in this part of the world, post 9 p.m. is watershed. I mean, this is a time where kids aren't watching, and this show was meant to be for PG. Now I don't know if it works like that over in the US, but 9 is very, very late for a PG show to be starting. I mean, it's on a Monday night. Maybe even an 8 p.m. would be good.
I think it will take from those kind of parts where if you open up a Raw with the ring decorated with Alberto Del Rio's flowers, and he's doing some ceremony deal, or stuff like that might get pushed aside. That would be one worry.
I'm all for those.
Yeah, I love those things when they start off with some crazy ass shit. But if that stuff goes, that's not going to be good. So, but it does have, I suppose, other advantages where you could genuinely create interest for people who might not be interested, or else you could create a nice bit of hype for a certain show if some deal is going to go down. So. Benefits on both sides, I suppose.
Of course, The Miz took on Alex Riley. I liked this feud on paper, and the match, well, it was just, again, an average match. I find myself always putting these matches in the 3 out of 5 bracket, and I think that's exactly what I put down for that, and I wrote the usual alongside it. So that's obviously what I thought about it at the time, and my thoughts, not much different really. I think it was kind of just a situation you had more or less Miz beating down Riley for most of the time. You had the Riley come back, and I noticed actually this week Riley was in a 6-man tag, and he was tagged up with Orton and Cena.
Yeah.
Against ever looking weaker heels, including The Miz.
Yeah, I did think about that. I mean, obviously, that's a quick jump for him, no matter what way you look at it. I don't know if, I suppose, does he deserve to have that place he has? I suppose is the question. I think maybe. I think he probably does.
Yeah.
It's just now they're up to the top on a click of a finger, really, aren't they? I think that's the whole difference. Back in the days, you really had to break balls to get anywhere. And then you got a guy like that who just comes in and he's in that position already.
I'm sure there's a lot of jealousy, and it was probably the Miz pairing, but as we've said many a time before, we were always high on the guy. A long time before the WWE or NXT, you had the FCW stuff, and he did stand head and shoulders above the rest there. On the FCW tip, I hear that one of the main events upcoming on that show is going to be Drew McIntyre taking on Justin Gabriel, so that's where Drew is.
That's fucking terrible, isn't it?
If he's gone back to FCW again, I'd be worried. I don't think he is.
Yeah, I forgot all about him actually. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's worrying. It's worrying because
He split with the missus as well, or divorced and all that.
maybe he just needs the time away from the big show. Maybe that's exactly what he needs. We need some time away from the big show because he took on Del Rio. I waited for this one. I wanted this match. I was looking forward to it. It was interrupted by Mark Henry.
It's a sad state of affairs when Mark Henry's around. You know, I liked him for about 5 minutes there recently, but I come back to hating him with a passion. He just needs to get out of the way now, really.
Do you think if he, he's obviously now the kind of fearsome heel, and we're looking at maybe the big man versus the big man, Big Show, Mark Henry, the big fellas
Probably.
taking each other on.
He was been putting people through the table for the last couple of weeks, isn't he?
Again, whatever it is, I mean, I'm not a Big Show fan, but I was big into the Del Rio slap in the face that led to this angle, and this has now led to an even funnier, on paper, a Mark Henry Big Show, maybe at a pay-per-view. Just give it 5 minutes for the every match is different feel. You know what I mean?
They're all in that. The ones that you just have to, like Kane is another one for me.
Oh yeah, he goes to beat him down as well. Yeah,
they can beat him all down all he wants. I'll be fast forwarding the fucking thing.
Same here actually. Yeah, I saw that as a sequence of very fast moving images. I noticed that there's a lot of fast forward you can do, especially on a 3-hour Raw, and why not? I mean, you don't need to see all of that stuff, but there were a lot of different topics to actually cover on that, strangely. It was the week of belt title changes as well. We had a lot of changes. Of course, we had, was it the US that changed first?
US, over to Dolph, IC, Big Zeke.
Big Zeke, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then of course, tag champs are... who are the fucking tag champs actually? How
Is
about
it still Justin Gabriel? No,
I think they dropped it. It's not the Usos. It's
David Otunga and
Michael McGillicuddy, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly haven't talked too much about that. And again,
the Usos are stepping it up with their hack, aren't they? You seen that thing?
Yes. What was that? Tell me actually.
They're coming out. They're coming out now, doing this kind of the hacka kind of thing that the rugby guys do. You ever seen that shit? But they come out and they do the hacka from their origins or whatever, and they've still got the kind of gimmick music, but taking it up a notch. I think they last, but at least they tried for 5 minutes to do something with them.
Absolutely, they probably should keep trying because I enjoyed the Usos in that FCW time. That was the time when I most remember, and of course we enjoyed their time at FCW. I certainly think FCW worth watching again. If you've got Drew McIntyre down there now, we should be seeing him on SmackDown, but what they've done, maybe it's a personal thing, who knows.
Is this thing loud enough, or am I talking too quiet? Check!
It is something we're going to keep an eye on, but certainly Charisma reminding us about the old mics there, and we'll try and keep them level as possible. We'll try and keep an eye on that. So we had Miz, Alex Riley. What did you think of that? Because it just, again, felt like standard stuff. I think I moved on from that, but to give your own rating.
Miz, Alex Riley, I can't even remember it. It's been, 2 weeks since Capitol Punishment or something?
It has now. A week, actually.
A week. Yeah. Let me see if I can remember exactly that whole situation. Who won, Miz?
In fact, Riley went over.
Right.
Yeah, Riley went over. Yeah, I was surprised by that.
I suppose
top babyface in the 6-man with Cena.
He's straight to the top. That guy really, isn't he?
I think Miz is probably jealous because Miz has been put in this bracket with R-Truth and Christian. That's a terrible play. I mean, R-Truth has got this temporary push. You know it's not going to be sustained. Then you've got Christian, who, I don't care what they do with him, he's still TNA. I don't think he'll ever get over that. Maybe I'm wrong, but
even when he's healing it up, he's still healing it in a baby face, getting the reactions away, isn't he?
Yeah.
No matter what way you look at it with old Christian and his peeps. A-Right, I'd say, from what I remember, it was probably okay. He won, probably a good choice. It doesn't. I just can't really remember all too much about that one, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I watched the whole match. I probably fast forwarded or something like that.
You know, I had to struggle not to. I did watch the Capital Punishment stuff as much as I could, and then there was so much filler. I was having to skip through the 10-minuters that they were filling up. And I think somebody remarked on one of our videos this week that actually some of our videos are in fact nearly as long as a pay-per-view. And, you know, I mean, some of those pay-per-views have clocked out at 2 minutes 35, 2 minutes 40. You know, we're nearly up there.
That's crazy.
Just for the hell of it, you know. Just this kind of thing. We were saying that. This is just this thing
Just
we
think,
do.
yeah, just go on and talk to.
But the Show Del Rio, as I say, Mark Henry stopping it. I thought good feud, and I went 2.5 out of 5. And then this line that I've had to written down here, and I'm going to read it. He said, Michael Cole said, "When have you seen Show grimacing in pain like this?" Well, 2 weeks ago. When he got
the car,
yeah. I know it's just a small thing, but, you know, I mean, Cole is usually good with that stuff. A Barrett shoot on the USA then, as they desperately try.
Quite funny, actually.
It was funny. I might knock these things, but I laugh all the way. You know, that's for sure. Even if I think they're poor or whatever. But then you had Zeke. Again, I should have been really happy here, because these were the two matches I was banging on about. We had Big Show.
Well, you saw what was coming with Zeke, in fairness, yeah. You got that one. Big time.
He's a good choice, because he is, again, he's a reminder of a larger than life character, and I'm all for that, really.
I think he's kind of like the modern day Junkyard Dog. You know, you could probably put him in a cartoon. You could probably send him to the hospitals, to the kids and stuff. You probably put him in an action movie. Yeah, you could do a lot with that guy. I just don't know if you know, he'd be the kind of. I don't think I'd make him a world champion if I was running the show.
Absolutely, that match is, as I say, I was supposedly looking forward to it. I mean, I sat there watching it. I didn't expect too much, but I was happy at the eventual outcome. The IC belt going there. And,
looks good in him, though, I will say.
It is. He's actually a good Intercontinental champion. I really think
Suits him more than it suits Wade. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it certainly does, because you know, Barrett, I felt, has lost.
I always have to. Do you ever do this? Do you ever think this is if you took this shitty new title off and stuck the old IC title on and thought of it like old school? If he was that belt IC champ.
Well, you know, I still think of it like that.
Yeah, well, that's,
you know what I mean.
That's the way to do it, really, isn't it?
It's very true, because it's the classic belt. If you brought that white Warrior belt back,
that would be amazing.
Of course, Warrior, big news this week.
That on Orton would be kind of funny, wouldn't it?
That's it. Orton could be the guy. Wasn't he the guy that they paired up in the All Stars game? When you see clips of that, it's Warrior versus Orton.
That's brilliant.
Which is just brilliant. I mean, you could sit there watching that one, and how would that turn out, I wonder. Short, forgettable, Wade v Zeke, as I say, new IC, 2 out of 5. I was going on that. We can do it so much quicker when it's not on in front of us sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't remember it. I'm probably going to give it a Wade versus Zeke. Let's say, what, it's out of 5 or out of 10?
Anything you like, but out of 5 would be... is it a 5-star match?
I'm going to give it 3 out of 20. How about that?
3 out of 20 would probably... You can get a bit more accurate on that scale. Because you can really do it... you can do it justice. And then Punk Mysterio... I liked this one a year ago.
Yeah,
it was a good match. I liked it a year ago. And I actually think it's solid, as always. And I was thinking this week that CM Punk, it's about time for him to be a solo guy again. I don't think from the very beginning he needed anything to do with New Nexus. He's got the kind of psychology angle. I really think he does, because, I don't know, you do kind of wonder what they're going to do with him, in a way. Whereas other guys, you mightn't even think about that.
I said it earlier on, he'll be a big loss if he goes. Big loss. And we should talk in depth about this whole situation where he said, you know...
The contract.
Yeah, the contract, yeah.
And
I do like how they acknowledged it on TV, though. You know, I think with with Trips, if he's running the show back there these days, he's making some good calls with that stuff. I think he knows that that controversial, straight up reality stuff does get over. Karma was a great choice, the way to handle it with the whole birth of her soon-to-be child. And then again, from Karma to what's his face? Who are we talking about again?
We were talking. I was thinking ahead to
Punk,
major announcements. Punk, yes.
CM Punk,
yes.
yeah. So for them to lose him, that's going to be a bad one, a bad situation. Really, star power comes back to that. Jericho's out of the picture. If Punk goes, really, what are you left with?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're losing at that point.
Cena Orton.
If they're talking about losing these younger guys now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Edge probably had 10 years. He might have taken a break for 3, but he'd certainly have had many more years in there. That was unexpected, unforeseen. There's nothing they could do about that. But you just don't want to. If it's some stupid contract issue where maybe he's even looking for a bit more, they're just going to have to realise where their stock is. And Punk is, he's just from enough years ago that he's starting to feel really credible.
Yeah. He knows he's worth it, I think.
Yeah,
I think he knows
and the
he's
matches, I have to say it, they've always been solid. I remember back to when he won the Money in the Bank a few years ago, I think it was 24, WrestleMania 24. That was where I completely disagreed with him, but I haven't felt like I have about The Miz, where I think the guy can't wrestle, the guy can't do anything, because he can.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been talking about Ring of Honor fans and stuff who've been with him since the very beginning. Those guys obviously knew that at least he was a guy who had a chance. I suppose maybe at times have we called out one or two that have maybe gone further. Alex Riley, I think that's our prime choice.
That's probably a prime choice. And Heath Slater.
We knew he was going all the way in this business.
In this business.
Orton versus Christian on board. I do like how Christian he's a heel, isn't he? I mean, he's.
I'm going to score Punk Mysterio 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. I'm
solid
going to
match.
rework it. I'm going to go on that 20 scale. Because I think, I'll go the kind of 13.5s.
13.5 out of 20. That's
Still on the 3 though, it's always that kind of average kind of mark. But Orton Christian, as I say, so he's a heel. He is a heel.
Christian's a heel now.
He's definitely a heel.
He's heel, but he's it's like that time Jeff Hardy was a heel.
Yeah.
And it took him a while to kind of transition.
Yeah.
So it's the small mannerisms. I think he's healing it, but he's looking for the pops. You can't be doing that kind of stuff.
No, you can't. And I mean, the only thing that really solidly pointed it to me this week, well, of course, in the match, he was kind of heelish, wasn't he? I mean...
Oh, no, he's full on heel, but it's just, when he was talking at the start of one of
the Hardy thing.
The Hardy, it was exactly the Hardy situation.
It's like, I mean, wasn't it? I mean, Matt Hardy went as evil as he could possibly go in the WWE.
Oh, I was talking Jeff, sorry.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, to go back on those Hardys, another example would say Matt Hardy, he did his match, he came back then 2 months later, and, he made up with his brother and everything's okay, but that's kind of the way it goes. There was another match thrown in there, of course, Swagger, Evan Bourne. I don't know who won that, actually.
That was just fired in there to fill the time. I think. Yeah. Couldn't tell you who won. I think possibly Evan Bourne might have got the clean pin, so that's a good thing.
I really lost attention at that point, and then of course you had Cena retaining. I like how they're reworking the kind of little Jimmy angle with the video packages for R-Truth.
They're gone bonkers with them.
Yeah, it's like they're like, look, he's not got it himself. We have to edit him. We've got to make sure that it's effect laden and that. Usually they'd recap like that. They actually need to put his vignettes, but it's a new take as well, I suppose.
I think they're just pushing it big time, and people are jumping on board with it. I think he's doing a good job with it, I will say. Still, I don't think he slipped all too much. Although, was it the Power to the People Raw where they had that segment with who was in it?
It was
Cena. No, it wasn't Cena, was it?
It led to the 6-man tag, or
you remember they were talking. Was Christian, Orton, and Truth? Was it?
Yeah, it was Orton. It was a Christian, Truth, and the Miz, wasn't it?
The Miz.
Those
that's
three
what it
were
was.
in there.
Sorry.
And when I saw them, I thought they're all gone down to US title. I mean, they're holding them there, but they have no intention of,
That whole sketch was a little on the cringe side, I will say.
Yeah. TNA have done better, I think.
Yeah. I think you saw that whole thing, how it was going to pan out right there and then. So that aside, he's doing a good job. I suppose that one was a bad call. Whoever put that together, if you know the one I'm talking about, where he's screaming "Little Jimmy" and all that stuff.
It's intense. It's intense. But overall, Capital Punishment, having watched it in a different light. Usually we watch it live here on justin.tv, but I think we figured out there that would have been something like the 13th or 14th live pay-per-view consistently that we have sat here and talked about. So for 1 week, and not a bad month for the pay-per-view that it was, to choose in a sense. Well, unfortunately we had trouble that prevented us from being reliably on, but overall it was just a case of, look, I mean, it's not like there was a lot missed.
Yeah,
you know.
it wasn't. If there was one to miss,
That was the one.
that or WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But you couldn't not really miss the WrestleMania one.
Well, of
But
all-
it was
yeah.
bad. It was bad.
That's right. We plunged to those levels again, and it's you know, you can't blame them in a sense, but it was definitely, to me, the post Michaels, the post Taker, that I always wondered what's going to happen when we're left with just those guys. And you know, looking at the names that are linked to the past on the card, basically you see Cena and Big Show and Mysterio. Everyone else, I think, for anyone who kind of tuned out years ago, they're not going to know them. You know, they may know Punk, maybe, but you'd have to have concentrated to know him.
Yeah, you
know.
would. Yeah.
Who's going to know any of them, like Dolph Kofi? I mean, basically what I'm thinking is, this time next year, this is WrestleMania.
You still probably have your Rays lurking around though, and
Yeah.
Orton and Cena, I suppose, tie shit over as well a lot of the time. But I mean, you can't really rely on the two boys. If something goes down, which potentially it normally does, you know, injury-wise, and one even of those two out of the picture,
Yeah.
they'll feel the pressure big time. If Punk is gone and something like that happens, you know, forget about it.